So clearly there's some playback problems there, which is a shame. So, okay, we'll just have to work with the animated GIFs, so sorry about that. But long story short, we managed to, we presented the game at PSX, and basically now that you have some kind of reference of what the game is about, we can look at our creative philosophy. So the main thing that we have at Housemarque, the main mantra, is that gameplay is king. So we are an interactive medium. No matter how good your story or your tech or your visuals are, there is no substitute for good gameplay. So that always comes first. And for the scope of this presentation, I'm going to define gameplay as not what's happening on screen, but it's what's happening inside the player's head. So it's all about the micro goals that the player kind of makes for themselves, and also the ones that the game sets for them. So goals create gameplay. With that in mind, let's look at what the goals are for Nex Machina. So the primary player goal in traditional shoot-'em-up fashion is, of course, shoot and survive. So you kill all the enemies, try not to get killed in the process, and move on to the next level. And that's it. I mean, even if you just stepped up and walked out of this presentation right now, you would still have a really good idea of what the core game is all about. But in addition to that, of course, there's a secondary goal, and that is to save the humans. So as you can see here, the player is killing all of the enemies, trying not to get killed by them, and there are these humans there that are clearly too occupied looking at their tablets and devices to actually notice what's even happening around them, and you have to save those humans. And that's an entirely optional extra goal for the player. Now, in addition to that, this is where things might start seeming a little bit overwhelming, but while this is happening, there are all of these additional goals that might manifest in some levels. So, for example, there's these visitor patterns that might appear flying through the level. If you kill all of them before they disappear, you get bonus points. There's some disruptors. As the name implies, they appear randomly, they disrupt the flow. If you kill 3 of them in a level, you get some bonus points. And there's a bunch of secret beacons, there's secret humans, secret levels, secret lives, extra power-ups. And all of these things play with the core gameplay of basically shoot and survive. It's moving and shooting. Just keep blowing stuff up and just keep collecting points. So this is the destroy and discover layer of the game. And there's the human combo, which is a super advanced mechanic that we'll go a bit later. And this is where arguably the biggest creative philosophy that I've been trying to apply to our games comes in, and a little bit to my life as well. And that is to embrace simplicity. So simplicity usually tends to make people a bit suspicious as a word. It's like, does that mean that it's simplistic? Does that mean that it's lacking depth? Does simple mean that it's lacking sophistication? But arguably, I would say that elegant design is all about setting constraints and embracing them. So this is especially a pitfall within experienced developers that apply the mantra that more is better. But elegant design does not come from adding more stuff to your game. It comes from removing as much as possible while still preserving its essence. So if you come and say that you have a game where you can do absolutely anything, what you're saying is that you don't have a design. So you want to have a concept that's distilled down to its bare essentials. And with Nex Machina, we started with that. Simple concept, simple controls. And we had a frequent battle, even inside the team, against the is this enough question. It's like, well, you move and you shoot. Like, surely we can add some second weapon that you charge up by gathering a second resource, and you do this complicated thing. And it's like, none of those things ended up adding anything more to the game. So how the hell did a game that's all about shooting robots and not dying get an 88 on Metacritic? And the secret here is that quality does not come from ideas, it comes from execution. And if you show commitment to simplicity, and you can spend less time reinventing the wheel and more time making that wheel damn incredible. And the simpler the systems you are, the easier they are to polish to perfection as developers, and perhaps more importantly, the easier it is for players for them to understand. So embrace simplicity. And this leads us to the next thing, the next mantra that is continuously going on at Housemarque, and that is depth without complexity. This is the arcade spirit, the arcade philosophy of, is the pickup hard to master? So you want novice players to come in and be able to blow things up and have fun and not be distracted by complexity, but you want veteran players who dig deeper to always have something waiting for them. And how did we do that? By getting the next points in the slide. So sorry, again, this doesn't seem to be working. Okay, there we go. So it's about layering player goals. So if you look here on the left, this is what we covered before, right? So we have the shoot and survive, which is the main thing. After you penetrate that, you look at saving the humans, and after that, you start looking at the extra goals. So the player skill is the one thing that goes through all of these, pretty much like a souvlaki. And the thing is that if you layer the goals like this, you discover the depth as the skill increases. The more time you spend with the game, the more the game opens up to you. And that's why a lot of reviews describe the game as deceptively deep. In the beginning, it felt like there's nothing happening here. But after they kept playing, because the core was so fun, they discovered all of these awesome things. And this is especially important that the player's attention becomes arguably the most valuable commodity that you have as a designer. And you need to respect that and utilize it very wisely. So if you make the core mechanics as simple as possible, not simple, you need to make them invisible. You need to have a direct synapse between your brain and your actions on screen. So no time wasted on micromanaging complicated controls, micromanaging these like secondary things, and that gives you all of your attention to focus on the goals and what's happening in the game. So urgency was another thing that we wanted to establish based on the Robotron philosophy. So how did we do that? If you look at the game with this structure, it feels like a very linear process, that you start by killing enemies and then you save humans and then you discover secrets. That's just for illustrative purposes, because when you're actually playing the game, what it ends up feeling is more like this. And this is something that we ended up calling the knife's edge. So it's basically the principle that you have multiple, very easy to understand goals instead of fewer, more complex ones. And all of these things are pulling you in different directions at the same time. So to illustrate that in a GIF, you'll see here, there's a lot of stuff happening, but the idea is that you have the shoot and survive. You're trying not to get killed by the enemies, right? Then you have this visitor pattern going through there. You try to kill that to get extra points. At the same time, there's a human right there. You want to go over and save it before it gets killed. You have a power-up behind you that's expiring. And you're constantly, from second to second, moment to moment, you are making all of these meaningful micro decisions that put you in a state of flow. And you just, one small goal achieved, one small layer of satisfaction and feedback, then the next one, then the next one, and then hours go by. So we kept the players on the knife's edge. We added randomization to some elements as well, so that every time that you play the game, the experience is slightly unique. The humans move in slightly different directions, the enemies spawn in slightly different locations, so the familiarity is there. And the structure of the game remains the same, but it's dynamic. You always need to be at the edge of your seat, and you cannot go on autopilot. You cannot play this game with your eyes closed. And why would you want to? So that about covers it from my end. So just to summarize, gameplay is king. Above all, embrace simplicity. Don't be afraid of sticking with simple things. Aim to have depth without complexity, and just polish your games to perfection. Because in the end, players will spend 95% of their time in 5% of your game. So keep that 5% simple and make it feel amazing. And just for the record, 87% of all statistics are entirely made up. So, thank you very much. Let's keep the arcade spirit alive. I want to throw this out there that I'm currently directing our new unannounced top secret AAA project. And we are hiring. So please let me know later if you'd like to have a chat. So thank you.
Thank you very much. You made it through. That was great. Thank you for your presentation. Do we have questions? Yes.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I'm a big fan of your games.
Cool.
Excellent work.
Thank
So
you.
I'm wondering, what was the biggest thing that you guys learned coming from Alienation, which has similar vibe? You've knew how to do shooting very well. So I'm wondering, what was the biggest discovery, biggest thing that you've learned moving to Next Machina?
So I didn't actually work on Alienation. While that was happening, I was working on Resogun. So a lot of the creative kind of DNA, that philosophy that we applied to Resogun, basically was applied here as well. So a lot of the things I mentioned, there are a lot of similarities there about keeping things simple and keeping that arcade spirit alive. The Alienation was a separate project done by a separate team, and that's why it was a little bit more experimental perhaps with these RPG elements and different pacing than usual.
Great. More questions?
Hi, a personal thank you as well for the game. It's one of my favorite twin-stick shooters ever.
Thank you.
I was wondering, the Robotron inspiration is obvious, of course, and Eugene Joss's collaboration. I was wondering if there was also some sort of inspiration or dialogue with Geometry Wars, which to my mind is the series that brought this kind of gameplay back to the modern consciousness.
Not that much, to be honest. So at the same time that the original Geometry Wars came out, Housemarque had released their own kind of flavor on that twin-stick shooter, and that was Super Stardust HD. So we kind of had a similar kind of formula already in-house that we were iterating over. But of course, massive respect for Geometry Wars, and I think it was great that it brought these, well, the arcade games back to the masses. Anything else?
Thank you. One more question, if there is. Okay. Okay. I was going to.
Hi. Quick question. I would like to know what was your biggest worry going from Resogun, which was an acclaimed shooter, did very well, into the next title, because there are similarities there, and was there like something that worried you, not something that came along the way, but when you were starting your new adventure?
Absolutely. So, well, this was my first time in the director's chair. So on a personal level, the pressure was immeasurable. So on the one hand, I needed to make a game that was better than Resogun, or as good, so something for Housemarque standards of quality. Then I also needed to take Robotron and do that justice. And you know how it goes, if you change it too much, people will complain. If you change it too little, people will also complain. And then was also Eugene Jarvis, the creator of the game, on the side. And I needed to make a game that was worthy of his namesake, to not embarrass the guy, you know? And somehow, out of all of these things, I still needed to find a way to push through all this like noise of expectations and find my own voice. Because I didn't want to make just another Resogun for Housemarque. I didn't want to make another Robotron for Eugene. I needed to make my own Robotron, you know, something that I would be proud of 5, 10, and 20 years down the line. And I think that was basically the biggest challenge for me, just on a personal level, fighting with that constant doubt and growing into that role of a creative lead. And that is very much explored on a personal level in the documentary that I mentioned as well. So check that out.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Harry, for his fantastic presentation. Let's thank him again, all together. Thank you. So we're getting ready for the next speaker in a few minutes. It will be about analytics in mobile, a super important thing from Yandex. Okay, moving next. Well, more people like PC games I see here in Greece. Well, if you look at the market, mobile games are very, very good and very important too. So let's welcome Alexander from AppMetrica Yandex.
Hello, everyone, and I'm really pleased to be here on the Athens Games Festival today. So, first of all, I'd like to know, I'd like us to know each other, and just a couple of words about AppMetrica. AppMetrica is a project of a Russian company named Yandex. Who heard about Yandex? Please raise your hand. Well, very good. So, AppMetrica is a kind of a startup inside Yandex, and it's a platform fully dedicated to mobile analytics and marketing. In AppMetrica, we cover all 4 functional domains which are related to mobile app promotion and analytics. We start from user acquisition tracking, then we go to product analytics. Also, we offer crash analytics functionality, and then we just offer you some features to re-engage your users with targeted push notifications. We use this platform for all our Yandex applications, and also we have a lot of third-party customers, external customers with their apps. We offer SDKs for all primary platforms. They cover Android, iOS, Unity, so on. And does anyone here has a mobile game? Please raise your hand. Okay, I think that maybe 20 persons have some mobile game. AppMetrica is a really big project. We process more than 45 billion events daily, and 5% of these events are coming from our Unity SDK. We never targeted for games specially. We just developed a general, just a common purpose mobile analytics. But for some reasons, game developers just love us, and this is why we put so much effort in listening specific needs of game dev and developing our Unity SDK. More than 8,000 applications using AppMetrica, and AppMetrica is covering more than 400 million of devices monthly. And among these names, I'm sure that some of them may be familiar to you, but this is a top Russian game developers. These are not big ones, but this is a top of the middle developers. They hold in the tops and categories of children games. There's also customers from Turkey. There's named Vertigo Games. They develop in hyper-casual games. And today, I'd like to focus a little on our product analytics part. And I'd like to tell you the story of one of our customers. This is named Black Bears Game Studio. Unfortunately, guys from Black Bears couldn't come to Athens this day, but I hope I'll manage to tell the story for both AppMetrica and Black Bears. So let's go. Story today is about user profile. What is a user profile? That's pretty easy. This is just a set of some attributes linked to specific user. This is some user properties and lifetime metrics. And this sounds pretty abstract. Review drill a game. This is just this is a simple clicker, but this is pretty popular, and this is one of the most this is one of the biggest games in Black Bear Studio. I hope everyone uses events for analytics of their applications. For the important points of your scenarios, like started a game or did some important action. Here we have events for tapping the start menu, starting and passing the onboarding process, and building a drilling machine, and starting the game, leaving the game, so on. All the events are going one by one and forming a timeline. And this is how you can put them all on the timeline. And this is the first thing you need to analyze your game or applications or whatever you have. Events are bringing us a key insights on user actions in the game. And there is a problem that events are not so useful when you want to study a specific single user behavior during his lifetime, or study his lifetime metrics, or keep track of his actual properties, like does the user have a subscription right now or not. Events are not helping with that, because first user may have a subscription and then user may cancel it, and you'll have two events, like subscription, like buy subscription and subscription cancelled. But to get the actual state of the user, you'll need to build a report for the long period and do some segmentation to get guys who has bought a subscription and hasn't cancelled it. This is where user profiles may help you. So all the events, as I said, are 4-minute timeline, and it goes. Usually we name it just like a user session, and user lifetime is all stacked from these sessions. Once we take all the sessions of the user during his lifetime and put it together, we get a user profile which keeps track of all its sessions, lifetime metrics, and attributes. So I'll show you how we use it in a Driller game, and let's take it step by step, one by one. First of all, of course, you have to plan and carefully design attributes and events, and then pass it to your development team so they'll implement it in the code. Once we get the data, I'll get you some hints on how to design these attributes, and let's see some specific things in Driller game. What guys from Black Bear Studio came up with is, first of all, they keep a start version. This is the birth version of each user, so they constantly have a easy accessible report on how different versions of the game where the new user came in compared to each other. They can keep track on different metrics and see which performs better. The second is a clan, and all the stuff related to the clan. Social mechanics in Driller game is very important. Users can enter the clan, and there are lots of communication and interaction inside this clan. Users are playing together, they selling and buying stuff, they're helping each other, and this is very important. And the third is subscriptions. We have 3 types of subscription in the game, and this is a must-have for analysis of monetization, because you constantly have to track your game balance and not allowing users to buy passing of the whole game through all the levels, making it too easy for users, so he loses the interest in the game. So the second step. Let's study the user profile report, and let's take a look on all these attributes which I just named and how it looks in the report. Let's take a look on the interface. The report looks pretty easy. We have dimensions in the table, and this is the split of the attribute values. And on the right, we have just metrics calculated for each specific group with this attribute value. For example, here we have a birth version of the user. This is not the last or current version of the application which the user is playing now. This is the birth version, so the version from which users start playing our game. Appmetrica automatically calculates all these metrics, like days since installation, or days since last session, or total number of the session during the lifetime. And this is how you can compare in this report different versions of your app, so you can just easily see which performs better, which keeps user longer, and so on. The second is the clans. Sorry, there's some names in Russian. There's like a forest it's gyros or something else. No matter how it's called, users are really willing to join into the clans and drill together and drill a game. And here you can compare vital signs of each clan. And you can see that this clan is engaged much more. So they produce much more sessions. They're staying in the game for a longer time. And also you can use this in segmentation. I just checked and I found that there is a Greek team. So you can go, for example, to the geography report, like location report, and segment out users who is in a Greek team clan and check out how much Greek team members are really in Greece. This is how you can use it, for example. And the third is subscriptions. Unfortunately, we can't show any numbers here, but subscriptions is just easy way for us. Just with a single click, you see the percentage of the users with different subscription types, and also you can split them by another attributes in the user profile, and also use it in segmentation. So you can split the users in geography report, in devices report, to see which devices are buying more expensive subscriptions and which are canceling subscriptions often. So you can track down maybe some issues on specific devices, so on and so forth. This is the specific for Drill a Game. But there are some general recommendations, and the first, I suppose each game may have it, is the paying or not paying user. Once the user just made up a first purchase, you just mark him up as a paying user, and now you have it in your user profile report in segmentation, and this is a sign binded to the user for his lifetime. So you don't have to do any difficult segmentation with events. You just send this attribute to the user profile. The second is keep track of socialization metrics. Like if you have some socialization mechanics in your game, you definitely should keep it in user profile, because it's much easier for analytics than keeping it in events. And the third is keeping up discrete metrics of game progress. For example, in Drill a Game, we keep up the current state of Drill a machine, because the user can tweak it, update somehow, buy new parts and replace it. So the state of the Drill a machine and the whole bonuses received by the user, overall bonuses received by the user in the game, so during his lifetime. This is a kind of example of discrete metrics of game process. This is what I mean. This should be stored in a user profile. Okay. The third is user list. User list is a kind of your mini CRM. So you can get the list of all your players, and this looks just like a CRM. So you really see the list of the users, and you see all the attributes in the table, and you can segment out this table. So you can just leave users from Greece, or you can maybe leave only users who made a purchase, and segment them down and track down the smallest groups of the user to study them just one by one. So you can keep it, you can make it like 10 users, which are the most interesting for you right now. For example, you want to study guys who's paying you the most and analyze them just under the microscope. Also, as I meant above, Appmetrica is an all-round platform, and also we have push notifications. This is a feature for targeted communication with your user. So, for example, you can just, in this list, you can segment out some group which is interesting for you and send them a push message. And, for example, we can build up a audience of Greek team clan members and send them a push notification just to engage them somehow, or just greet, hey, we're here on the Athens Games Festival. Okay, and the fourth, but not the least, this is the user profile page. This is the page of a single user profile. This looks like a ID of the user. You can see all the attributes of the user here, and this is presented on the left. So all the system attributes, all the lifetime metrics, and all the custom attributes are collected on the left side. And on the right side, you see the timeline of the user. All his sessions are stacked and shown here. So you can track down the user's behavior in the game, just like you stand behind the user's back and check out what user is doing in the application. So this may be just like a replacement for some high-cost UX laboratory research or some focus groups. But in Drilla, we have some interesting applications of this user profile page, and here are two of them. The first is support, and the second is education of new team members. Sometimes user loses his artifacts or some his add-ons which he just bought, and he claims our support that I had it, but now it's lost. Just help me, just bring it back. It takes a lot of time for support guys to go through the backend guys and check out who really had it, who really didn't bought it, and make some refunds or track down the problem. And with the user profile page, it gets much easier. This process looks just like find the specific user by his name or profile ID, which he provides to support team, and then go to his timeline and find the event, which means I bought some stuff. For example, here you can see I bought a booster for a drill machine. And here we check when the purchase was made, what was the cost and region, and what were the parameters of drill machine when the user bought this booster, and tracking down such problems becomes much more easier for our support team. The second application is education of new team members. The problem is that Black Bear's team is not sitting in a single office and just in one city. They spread all across Russia and Ukraine, and some new guys come into the team. They need to study a lot of information, and sharing of this experience is really difficult for new support members, for new game designers. And this is why Black Bears is strongly keeping their team members, the game developers, game designers, everyone in the team, to start in these user scenarios, because this is the real data from real users, and game producers are picking out the most interesting cases or the most representative cases, and they just give it out to the team, and the team is studying that, and they can share experience and find some new insights from it. Here, not just a timeline of the events, but also a payload of the event, which brings a lot of useful information for understanding the context when the event has happened. Okay, so I suppose we're almost there, and let me just make a small recap of the whole presentation. That user profile gives you ability to study real data on your game usage from real audience, and this is also allows you to replace UX research, which not all the game studios can afford. The second is you get CRM-like experience in your communication and segmenting out your users. So you can track down just the smallest groups of users and go into their user profile pages and check out some specific scenarios, what they're making in the game, or just maybe build up a push campaign and re-engage them somehow. 3 steps to get it into a game is first to carefully design attributes and events, but you have to respect the privacy and don't send too much data, especially if you're not going to use it anyhow. The second is you need to make some setup in the AppMetrica interface. That's pretty easy. And the third, just give it to a development team and implement it in the apps code. All the guides on using AppMetrica user profiles and about AppMetrica at high level and in some hands-on guides you may find on our blog, in our Telegram chat, and at our Facebook page. We have some cool stuff from Yandex for the best questions after the speech, so your questions are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. What kind of cool stuff? That will be the first question.
Well, very cool.
Okay, very cool stuff.
There's a bag. There's a bags and some other useful
Well,
in daily routine
I can
things.
confirm that Yandex usually does have cool stuff.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, do we have any questions?
Hi, I have a question. Basically, AppMetrica is for native apps, yes?
Right.
Like we're doing blockchain games right now. Native apps are closed in the stores, so we're using web-based interface. And those profile building that you were speaking about, it is very interesting for us because it would allow us to make more weighted decisions. Is it possible to maybe some kind of via API approach do that in a web-based game?
Thank you. That's a good question, and we have some options here. And just 3 months ago, we launched Post API. This is kind of a measurement protocol in Google Analytics. So you can send us data via this Post API, not using our SDK, but from a random place, like from JavaScript or from backend or from everywhere, what supports making a GET requests. So yes, you can make it via Post API. Thank you.
Okay, more questions? Yeah, I think this is like real deep for people who haven't tried it yet. Do you think that each mobile game needs that deep analytics?
I believe that analytics is not it's not a must-have, but it's kind of it grows with the game. So for us, analytics is really important, but.
So you think that for free-to-play mobile games, analytics is not that important? That's what you're saying?
Of course, it's important, but to get it from real experience, small teams or one guy just not having enough resources to make good analytics.
That was my next question. So how hard it is to actually learn how to use all of this stuff? Because I don't think it's like super hard.
It's pretty easy, but the problem is that you have to make the first step, and the second you have to study the best practices, not to collect all the errors and all the wrong steps which are already known and told about. And this takes time, so studying the content. But making the analytics, putting out the events and analyzing it in the interface of any analytics system, AppMetrica, for example, that's not so
Can you
difficult.
guys help those who want to start?
Yeah, definitely. The last slide with our contacts, and we constantly trying to keep track on all the requests, especially from small guys, from big companies, from medium companies. We're trying to help each other, and we produce a lot of educational content on YouTube. And we also share it on our Facebook page, so just check it out, please. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ping us on Facebook. We have content in English. We speak in English somehow. So
Okay,
you're welcome.
Good to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting ready for the next speaker in about 3 or 4 minutes, as soon as I come back with the coffee. All right, we're going to continue with our next speaker. We have 3 more presentations today. I hope you're not tired yet. And second-time speaker at the second Athens Games Festival, Matt Binkowski, Artifacts Mundi. Let's welcome him on stage.
Hello. Hey guys, thank you for having me. I really like coming here, so I hope that you're gonna like this lecture as well. So very quickly about why you should maybe listen to what I have to say. I started my career as associate producer and game designer on Dead Island. Then I was lead game designer on Dying Light. And then I had enough of zombies, and I wanted to learn more about business side of things. So I joined Techland Publishing, where I was working as marketing manager. And here I had a chance to work with Torment and Pure Farming. About 6 months ago, I joined Artifacts Mundi, and about a month ago, we released our first premium indie game, My Brother Rabbit. One last thing before we start, I wanted to introduce you to 2 of my mentors, Alex Mandryka and Stefan Asadurian. These are guys that have tremendous experience, and if you have trouble with your project or your studio, if you need help, just hire these guys. All right, so the talk of this presentation is if you want to make money on your game, here's what you need to know, but that's a little bit of a lie. And I promise that that's the last lie I used. The real topic is if you want to have a chance, but it doesn't sound so sexy, so I was afraid nobody's going to come. The thing is, there's no guarantees. Like, I'm going to tell you a lot of stuff that you can do to make sure that you have a bigger chance to make money, but there's no guarantees. Okay, so that's like the first thing. And what you have to realize is that we're at a time where it's super easy. It's easier than ever to make games. Like you can learn everything online. You just go YouTube and you can learn how to code, how to do art, everything. You can get super powerful engines like Unreal, Unity, whatever, for free. And then you have tools that you can use to collaborate with people on the other side of the planet. So it's like all you need is a computer and internet connection, and that's it. It's like super easy. But at the same time, it's also the hard. So it's super easy. It's easiest than ever to make games, and it's harder than ever to make money because everybody's making them. And on top of that, you have to realize one more thing. Nobody gives a fuck about you and your game. Unless you have a big name like Mr. Kojima, nobody cares. So investors and publishers, they don't care. All right? They have people coming for their interest, for their time, and for their money all the time. They're cherry picking, so they don't care. Press and influencers, there's so many games, everybody wants them to cover their game, so they don't care either. Consumers, there's 40 games coming up on Steam every day. They don't care either. Like there's like shit ton of games. Why should I play yours? And then the final group that doesn't give a fuck about you and your game is even people you work with, because you're going to need some team to build that game, and they have their own ambitions. Then they have their own goals. So does your game really help them achieve them? If not, all these people don't give a shit about your game. So if you want them to give a shit, you need to give them a reason. And here's what usually happens. Everybody wants to be this. Like, yeah, we're going to make games, and it's going to be so cool, and we're going to get millions of dollars. And then reality hits, and you're like, oh, shit, my game doesn't sell. I guess I've run out of luck. And I'd rather introduce you to a different approach. Like, you got to be like these penguins. Everybody, who knows where the penguins come from? All right, everybody knows the penguins. What penguins do? They have a very clear objective. They scout their surroundings, then they plan, and then they execute. Does it mean they have a guarantee of success? No. They adapt on the fly, but at least they come really prepared. So today, I want to tell you how to be like those penguins. And lastly, the thing that you need to realize is that everyone thinks they know how to build a game. And first, a lot of people are just full of shit. They have no idea how to make games, even though they think they do. But then you also have teams that are really good. They know how to build the games. Like you have really good programmers who can code, and you have really good artists who can do art. And they still don't make money. So everybody knows how to make games, and this is what we're good at. And we just want to make games. But the trick is that you need to know what game to build. And in order to know what game to build, we're going to need 4 things. So the first one, we're going to need business objectives. Did I say that it's like, okay, before anyone runs out, this is going to be relevant no matter if you're a studio head or just a developer, okay? We're going to need business objectives. We're going to need market evaluation. We're going to need creative vision. And finally, we need a production plan, and then it can be like the penguins and have a chance to make money. So let's start with the first one. Of course, everybody says like, yeah, I want to make money. You got to be specific. How much money do you want to make? Anything? You want to make $100? You want to break even? You want to make $1 million? You want to make $100 million? You want to make $1 billion? And everybody's like, fuck yeah, man, I want to make $1 billion. Really? Like, you got to keep it real. Like, if you want to make $1 billion, how many games made $1 billion last year? Not so many. One of them is Call of Duty. Can you make Call of Duty? No? Well, then shut the fuck up. Get real. Like, you need to know, and why is it important for you? Because depending on what objectives you set, that's going to drive the kind of game you're making. Because if you want to make a game that can make $100 million, that takes a certain level of quality and number of content and everything to make a $100 million game. But maybe you don't need that. Maybe it's your first game ever and all you need is pizza money. Maybe all you need is to just break even because you're just establishing your IP, and that's enough to just break even on the first one and then can make money on the other one. So be specific. The other goal you might have is learning. What do I need to learn? And of course, to know that, you need to have some kind of a strategy of where do we want to be as a company, as a studio in like 3, 5, 10 years. Because let's say you want to make best open world games in the world in 10 years. What is it that you will need to know? What is it that you will have to learn to get there? And how this particular game can take you one step closer to where you need to be. So maybe your goal might be, I just want to release on Steam. I never did that, so my goal is to learn how to release on Steam. Maybe you want to learn how to release on consoles. Maybe you want to learn how to do procedural generation. Maybe you want to learn how to establish community. I don't know, but you need to know. Because once you set your goals, again, you're going to be like, even define your future scope. There's so many stuff that you can do, but you're going to say, like, you know what? The most important part is this because we want to make this amount of money and we want to learn this thing. Everything rest comes later. You might want to set a quality goal. I want to have a 70% Metacritic, 80% Metacritic, 90% Metacritic. That's also going to affect, because you're going to be checking your game against these goals. You're going to be like, is this a game that could make a 90% Metacritic? And actually, maybe even before you start, you might be like, holy shit, I don't even know what it takes to make a 90% game at Metacritic. And then you can at least research what it takes so that you understand what you're trying to build. Or maybe your goal is something completely different. Maybe you just want to send a message. Maybe you want to say something with your game, start a discussion, make a statement. Maybe your goal is to establish community, whatever. But you need to understand your business goals. And now we're going to get into the ugly part. Like I said, making game is hard, making money is even harder. So this is easy peasy, okay? You know what you want to do. And then we go to marketing evaluation. So the first thing we need to know is our competition. So who are we going to fight against? Who's out there doing games like we do? Because everybody's out there, just like you, right now, every second, 24 hours, making day game, and they want to kick your ass. Okay? So you better know who's out there. So let's say you want to make an FPS game, which you don't. Trust me, you don't want to make an FPS game. But let's say you do. So you start evaluating in competition. First thing you could do is to just list all the games, all the FPS games that are out there. And then you're like, holy shit, there's so many FPS games. Maybe I'll do something else. But let's say you still want to do it. And then you start to see, what do they actually have? Like everything. What was their price? How long was the content? What kind of modes they have? What kind of features? Did they have cinematics? What is the game structure? Everything. And then as you start listing those things, suddenly you start realizing little patterns. And then you can see that you can put certain games into categories or buckets, and you can say, like, you know what? There's a bucket I could call story-driven RPGs, and that's Deus Ex and Dishonored and Prey. And it's critical to have a very cool single-player story experience in this game. If you want to be in this bucket, you gotta be able to pull that off. But if you're making an open-world RPG like Far Cry or Dying Light, yeah, you need single-player experience, but that's not the critical part. The critical part is systemic gameplay, the emergent gameplay. And then so on and so on, right? Arena shooters, co-op, focus game. Each of these games is about something else. Something else is critical in those games. So first, you might say, okay, so if I was to make an FPS game, into which bucket would I put it? Because first, you know who you're going to be fighting against. And second, you will realize, can I actually build this? Like, do I know anything about systemic gameplay? Or do I have money to make single-player cinematic experience with mockups and everything? I don't know. But at least you'll see who you're dealing with. So let's say you have that, right? Competitive landscape, easy. And as you do that, you have to know, once you choose your bucket, you have to understand your competition, like everything about what they do good and everything that they do bad. Because based on that, you find your market gap. Because you might see, oh, all of their games, they look really good, but they're pretty shallow on design. So if I can make my game look pretty, but have a deeper design, oh, that's my market gap. Or the other way around. All of the games are they're very good on the design side, but they're all kind of ugly. Maybe both, right? And so you're looking for something that you can do better than everybody else and something that you can innovate on. And that's how you find your market gap. And then you want to know how much money you can actually make on it. Because how do you do that? The cheapest way, just go to Steam Spy. It's not as accurate as it used to be, but you can pay, I think, $3 per month, which is like nothing, right? You just skip one coffee and that's it, you got it. And you can check what games sell, how much they sell. And also, I highly recommend just go to YouTube and find this talk from Mike Rose. I don't know if you can see it, but it's Mike Rose at GDC talk. Absolutely phenomenal. Basically, watch every single talk from Mike Rose. He's fucking brilliant. And he will teach you how to find what kind of sales you have. Because on average, do these games sell 10,000 copies or 100,000 copies or 100 million? And then you can see on the best ones selling and the shittiest ones selling, and you can say, can I be as good as the best guys? Probably not, because of this and this and that. But can I be better than the shitty guys? Yeah, because of this and this and that. And you find something in the middle, and that kind of gives you a potential of what sales you could have. And now that you have this, you also need to understand who are you selling this game to. Because a lot of people are like, well, man, I just want to make a game that I'm excited about. You know, I make the game for myself. That's fucking great. But you're not going to sell it to anyone. Here's what I mean. I don't mean that you shouldn't be excited about your work, that you shouldn't be passionate. No, that's absolutely fucking critical, because making games is fucking hard. So you're going to wake up one morning and you don't feel like doing it. And you might feel like this for a very long time. So you've got to be really passionate about this, you know, so that it takes you out of the bed and you'll do it anyway. But if you're doing this for money, right, and this talk is about how to make money, you need to understand, is my audience male or female? Are they hardcore? Are they casual? Are they midcore? Are they 25 years old? Are they 35? How much time they spend? What motivates them to play? Do they come to destroy shit, or maybe they want social experience? I don't know, but you gotta know. And another resource that I want to point you to, which is absolutely brilliant, go to quanticfoundry.com, watch the GDC talk by Nick E. They have absolutely phenomenal model of player motivations. So it's basically 12 motivations, and you can see like why do people play certain games. And just by understanding this, depending on what kind of game you're building, you can say like, I think that for my game, people come for distraction and excitement, competition, and community. If you're making a shooter. If you're making a story game, probably they're more like for the fantasy of things and story and discovery. So you have to understand who are we making this game for? And again, are they hardcore or midcore? Should we make a game that is hardcore, like it has a lot of depth, but it's accessible, or maybe a game that is accessible, but with enough depth for hardcore people to stay? Again, you need to know. Okay, easy peasy. We've got the business objectives and market evaluation. By the way, that's a shit ton of work that nobody wants to do. Okay, because everybody was like, I just want to make my game, man. I want to code, and I want to do art, and I want to do levels. You got to do this. Somebody has to do this. You want to have a chance to make money? Guess what? You have to put the work. And then we go to the interesting part, but it's really, really painful. So the creative vision. The creative vision is painful because you're in a zone where there's no answers. And that hurts because you don't know. There's a lot of questions that you don't know, and you need to find out. That's why it's called creative. Because you're trying to build something that nobody built yet. Otherwise, why are you doing it? It's already out. And I could do a whole talk about just creative vision, but here's what you need to know. The first thing you need to understand to say that I have a vision for my game, and I can bet, like, if there's... Who makes games? Okay, I can bet half of you that you have no idea what the vision for your game is. First, you need to understand the genre. What are the genre-defining qualities for your game? Like, are you making a strategy? What kind of strategy? Are real-time or turn-based? Are you making an open-world game, a story game, whatever? What is it that people are after, that like essential parts of that particular genre, to be able to say that, oh, this is a horror science fiction game or whatever? Really need to understand what is it that I'm making. Why do people play fantasy games? Or like, why do people play strategy games or whatever? Whatever you're trying to build, you need to know, just like you're making a movie or a story. You want to build a detective story, you need to know what people look for, right? So genre, super important. The next one is fantasy. And this one is really interesting because we create experiences, right? Games are experiences. And the fantasy asks the question, who am I playing as? Who am I in this game? And that if you dig deeper, you start asking questions. So if I'm this guy, how do I feel? What do I do? What do I think? So, and it gets trickier because it's not Nathan, it's Joel. Joel from Last of Us, the fantasy is actually multi-layered. The first layer is he's a survivor in a post-apocalyptic world, right? Okay, and just from that you can say, okay, if I was a survivor in post-apocalyptic world, what would I do? What would I feel? What would I think? I would be probably pretty anxious, and I would scavenge for stuff, and I wouldn't trust people so easily, and so on, right? But on top of that, the next layer of fantasy, he's also a father who lost a daughter. How does that make you feel? What is this experience about? How do you feel like someone who lost a daughter? How would you behave? How would you think? How would you talk? And if you want to make a great experience, you really need to understand what that is. Another example, Diablo. Who played Diablo? Yeah. The basic fantasy is I'm an adventurer, killing monsters, and finding treasure. Easy. And that already tells you, like, fuck yeah, man, I'm going to kill monsters, and I'm going to get treasures. Yeah. What kind of treasures? What kind of treasures? Like treasures like gold and jewels, or like more powerful items? Maybe both. I don't know. You have to define what does it mean treasurer in your particular fantasy, and what kind of monsters. And then on top of that, you have another layer of fantasy, which is barbarian. versus the wizard. When I'm walking into the room full of monsters, as a barbarian, I'm gonna fucking scream and jump right into them and like torn enemies apart. That's a barbarian. I'm a barbarian. But as a wizard, that's a completely different fantasy, right? I wanna be smart and tricky and look magic and just like blow shit up. Completely two different fantasies with underlying fantasy of being the same. Kill monsters, find treasure. So what kind of fantasy do you want to portray in your game? You have to know. And then once you have that, you need to understand the pillars of your game. So what are the 3, maybe 5 most important things about your game? And you're going to use those 5 to bounce all the ideas away from. So let's say you have a pillar that your game is accessible. That you say, okay, based on what we know, because you know, right? You did the research, you know that most of your audience is like casual to mid-core. So you say like, no, this game's got to be accessible. Everything we do, every mechanic we put in, it's got to be accessible. And then somebody comes and says like, yeah, man, we're going to do this cool mechanic, and you can do this, and you can do that. And then you can start ask yourself a question, is it accessible enough? Is it easy to understand? And you actually have to define what does it mean to be accessible? What does it mean? Oh, so for us, accessible would mean easy to understand, easy to learn, easy to use, blah, 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 whatever. But then you can take that mechanic and say, yeah, it is accessible, or maybe not. We have to twist it around. Or then another pillar could be we want mastery, that we want to have enough depth for everyone to dig in and learn and be really good at. And then somebody comes with the same mechanic and you say like, oh, is it accessible enough? Does it have enough place for mastery? And so on, right? But you need to know those pillars in order to be able to make valid decisions. And here comes another value. Many times when people make games, they're having discussions like, you know what, I don't like this. I like this. Well, fuck you. I'm like, no, fuck you. And then it doesn't get you anywhere because you're discussing personal opinions. If you have this genre and fantasy and pillars, it's no longer about what you like and what I like. It's more about, does it fit the genre? Does it fit the fantasy? Does it actually work with our pillars? Does it actually work with the target audience that we intended? So you're having discussion about the subject rather than personal opinions. But in order to be able to do that, you have to define it first. And finally, when you have all this, okay, we need to define the player experience itself. Here's what I mean. Again, games are player experiences, and this is something that took me a long time to really understand, because as a designer, I was very focused on like numbers and just making my design look pretty in Excel sheet. And my game director, Adrian Shiszewski, who I'm very grateful, he told me this, like, dude, it's about the experience. It's not about the numbers, it's about the experience. How do you do that? A very simplistic way of thinking about this. You can divide your game into number of stages. I put 3, it's just an example, right? But there are stages of your game, of your experience, how you expect player to feel in a certain way. So we're going to put emotions, like how do you want me to feel when I start the game? How do you want me to feel when I go through this particular level? How do you want me to feel when I do something? And then we will fill that up with features. So how does each department, art, game design, level design, UI, AI, how do we use these features to make this reality? So let's imagine we want to make a fighting game. Okay, it's a very simple fighting game, okay? Very simplistic approach. So we could probably divide our experience into 3 stages. The first one is anticipation. This is where people stand, right? When they're on the waiting and they look in each other's face. They're not fighting yet, but you can see it. It's like, oh, it's already there. Then we can clearly say, okay, at some point they're already fighting, and at some point somebody wins and the other guy is like, yeah, celebrating. So to put a picture, like these are just words. Like, here's what I mean exactly. So when I say anticipation, I want this. I want two guys standing like close to each other, like screaming in their face, and then they beat the shit out of each other. And then, of course, there's like a million different ways, and we could do that. But the one I have in my head is actually Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris. This is like the epic fights that I want to have in my game. And eventually, when you finally win, I want you to feel like Rocky. So you're all battered and destroyed and bruised, but you're like, yeah, I pulled through, and you're like, yeah, we're winning. That's how I want you to feel. That's the experience. That's the experience. So then I go like, okay, what about emotions? So here, I definitely want this to be tension rising. That's what it's about. And that's just an examples, right? We could probably have a lot of stuff that's going on here. But for the purpose of the presentation, I was like, okay, here's about tension rising. When we fight, I want you to feel like you're really powerful. And at the same time, like you're being lightning fast. And at the end, you gotta feel like you're bruised, like you really suffered, but then you feel pride of your victory. And then once we have this, once we understand what is the experience, then we can say, okay, so how does art, UI, tech, whatever, is going to help us bring this, and this, and this, and so on, and so on. And this is the cool part, because you're working with your team, because you're not the smartest guy in the room, right? Even if you're the creative vision holder, game director, you're not the expert, right? Just like the movie director. He's not expert in lights. He's not expert in sound. He's not expert in digital photography. He's not expert in costumes. But he has a vision. He knows what kind of experience he wants to build. And then he sits with all the guys and girls, and they say like, you know what? We could use this kind of camera, and we could put this kind of lights, and we could do this thing with the sound, and this thing with the costumes, and this thing with the special effects. It's exactly the same thing. But you first need to understand what is it that we're trying to achieve. And then you can say, yeah, I've got creative vision. I understand what is it that we're actually after. I understand the genre, I understand the fantasy, and I have my pillars, and I know what my player experience is. Easy. It's actually not easy. It takes a lot of time. And it's very difficult because even if we use the same words, every single person in the room has something different in their mind. So it takes a lot of time and collaboration to actually be able to build the same picture for everybody. And it's crucial, if we want to build that game, everybody needs to be thinking the same thing. So now when we have all this, we understand the objectives, we evaluated the market, and we have the vision for the product. Here comes the difficult part. We actually need a plan of how we're going to build this. So now that you have your creative vision, now that you actually understand what is it that you're trying to build and all the features from every department are there, you can ask yourself, so who do we need? Like, what kind of people I'm going to need to build this? And what kind of skills do they need to have and able to pull this off? And then on top of that, you might say, like, oh, then there's some tech that we're also going to need. Yeah, we're building an open world game, so that means we're going to need to be streaming geometry because we want to have one big seamless world. We don't have that kind of technology. How the hell we're going to get that? But at least you know, like, so we need people who know this, and we got to build some tech to build this. And then on top of that, based on the creative vision and all the features, you can actually say, like, what is it that we don't know? What are the risks? Maybe we don't know how to build something. Maybe we don't know if it's going to fun. And so on and so on. So you list all the risks, and you can do that only if you actually see what is it that you're trying to build, right? Maybe the risk is you never did early access. Maybe the risk is you don't have tech. Maybe the risk is the design is like nobody did it before, and so on and so on. Maybe you don't know if you have enough skills to actually make, I don't know, third-person animations because you never did that before. Like, you're an animator, but you never did it, so that's a risk. So you can create a whole list of risks and then create prototypes to address those risks. Because the worst thing scenario is that you're in the middle of production and suddenly you discover is like, oh shit, we're not going to build it because we don't know how. You want to find that really early. And then, of course, the ugly thing, you need some kind of an estimate of how much time it's going to take and how much money it's going to cost. Because at the end of the day, you will have to weight it. On one hand, here's the time and cost, and here's the money we can make on it. Does it make sense or not? Maybe we should make something else. Maybe the risk is too thin. Depending, again, coming back to your objectives, right? It might end up that you say, like, it just seems like we're going to break even. Like, the cost of making this game is about the same size of what we can make. And then depending on the objectives, you might say, yeah, it's no problem. If we break even, it's good. Because we're going to learn a lot of stuff, and then we're going to make money on the next one. Or maybe not. Maybe you need the money right away. But you have to know. So only when you have all these 4 things, business objectives and market evaluation and creative vision and production plan, then you can say, yeah, I understand what kind of game we're building, and I think we have a pretty strong chance of making money, and this amount of money. So I want to leave you with this quote. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. If you think that the companies that make money on games, yeah, some of them get lucky. You might get lucky. But if you wanna build successful business, you really want to make sure that you do everything it takes so that the luck is on your side. And yeah, you want to be like these guys. And with that, I'm going to leave you with this. Thank you so much. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Thank you very much for the fantastic presentation. That was really great. I forgot to count how many times you used the F words.
I'm sorry. Yes, it's just.
It's okay. We don't have much time for questions, but maybe for one. Anyone? Okay.
Hi, thank you for a wonderful presentation. Just have one question. Everything that you've said, it's correct, it's super, but like, if you want to make money, the presentation was about making money, and if you really want to make money, you need to think about like that in advance, about marketing, yes. How you will do the selling of your game when the game is not even yet developed, and you didn't touch these points like on a big scale, and those are very important. And it's okay if you have a publisher, if you have like some connections, but if you're an indie developer, you don't have money, like what would you suggest on this point?
Yeah, so I was thinking about putting marketing like the 5th point, that you still, like even if you have all this, you still got to do marketing, because otherwise, even if you build a game and nobody knows about it, then you're still not going to sell. But there's just like, there's only so much stuff that I can put into 30 minutes. If you want to do, so yes, all this stuff that I'm showing you here should be before you go into making a vertical slice. So that this is your conception phase. So you have a goal, you come up with a pitch, you build a vision for the project, you evaluate its potential, and then you can say, okay, let's build it, and then you build the vertical slice. But once you go through all this, and then you use your pillars during the production to decide what to cut, what not, eventually you'll have to start promoting the game. And the first thing you could do is do the research. Like during your market evaluation phase, see what your competitors did to market their game. Did they show up on like Gamescom and PAX? What kind of press did they talk to? What kind of influence did they talk to? Are they present on Reddit? Are they present on Discord? What do they do? So that gives you a picture of like, okay, I should be able to be doing all those things. Because maybe some of them, especially successful ones, you'll be like, okay, if I want to be that successful, I need to be able to do all those things. Maybe you're not, because I don't have a community manager. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. But at the same time, look at all the failure cases. So in the same bucket, see at the projects that failed. And then you can be like, so what is the difference between the good ones and the bad ones? Not only in terms of features, but also in terms of marketing. What are the differences? Maybe they had less reviews. Maybe they didn't go early access. Maybe they didn't do this. Maybe they didn't do that. So it's very dependent on particular game and particular competitors. But yes, if you want to make money, you got to do some form of marketing. And the bigger awareness you build, the better price you choose, it all matters. Yes, but that's a topic for like a completely different presentation.
Next year, I guess.
Why
Thank you
not?
very much, Matt.
Thank you.
We have to go further. And in a few minutes, we're going to have a fireside chat with Junpei from Supercell about community management here on stage. So don't go far away. Okay, we're getting ready to continue. I can say that here in Athens, people actually are more interested in PC games, and according to what I see. But then again, it's Supercell. I mean, so all right, let's go. Finally, I'm getting on stage. You know, sitting there downstairs all the time. Now I get a chance to be here upstairs. And Junpei from Supercell. Yes, let's welcome him. Guys, there are not so many of you, so you have to pretend they're like full house to make us feel more comfortable. All right, hope more people will come.
Yeah.
Hey, Junpei, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here.
Is it your first time in Athens?
No, not the first time.
All right, so how is it so far?
It's been great. Like I was playing a lot of the different games, and I saw it was very crowded. It was very nice.
Yeah, I think it's very nice what they're doing here with the second year in a row.
Yes.
Right? Where are you from originally?
I'm from Japan.
Wow.
Yes.
And now you live in Finland as far as
Yes, I live in Finland now. Yes.
Okay.
Long way, far away from home.
Could you please tell us a few words about yourself, about how you started your career in gaming industry, when, and what did you do before?
Right. It was a pretty life-changing decision for me. So at first, I thought I would never go into the game industry. This is because I tried learning programming, and it was a little bit too hard for me. And in Japan, the only way you get into the industry is if you know someone in the gaming industry or if you're a programmer. So I kind of given up on coming into the game industry. And I was in Australia at that time. I was thinking on a working holiday. I was in Melbourne, and I was thinking about either option one was going to Sydney, option two was going to Europe and go to a culinary school to become a pastry chef.
Wow.
Or go to Japan, fly to Japan, and interview for this job that I found on the internet. And out of all the three choices, I went to Japan to interview at Gameloft. and I was actually able to get that position.
That was your first job in the industry?
Yes, first job in the industry. And I worked at 3 years in Gameloft. And after at Gameloft, I moved to Playfish, or Electronic Arts, and helped build up the studio there in Japan. And then after Playfish, I moved to Supercell to help them build up their studio in Japan.
So now you're a community manager,
Yes.
and so you've been doing it for quite a long time, right? So
Yes.
2013, you joined Supercell,
Yes.
right? But you started the community management even earlier, right?
Yes.
Why?
So when I entered Gameloft, my job was to edit. I had a decent e-commerce background, so I was helping them build up their website, like taking screenshot, writing description of their pay-to-download games. And one of the games that they made was a multiplayer game, and from there we made a forum. And about people talking about ranking and what kind of monsters they want, new monsters they want. And I kind of got into like operating the forum, and that was my first step into community. And I've been doing that type of work since then.
All right. So how do you define a community manager? What's your role? What do you do?
So when I tell people that I'm a community manager, people ask me how many employees I have because it's a manager, but it's really not a manager. It's also not social media manager or PR manager, because a community manager is the person who makes the bridge between the dev team and the community. So it goes both ways, and community manager is the only person in a gaming business, I guess, that does that type of job.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How many community managers are there at Supercell?
Right now, I think we have about 12. So 2 to 3 on the live games. And we have one for each big market. So Japan, Korea, China. And I think we have one for Latin America and one for Europe, I think, if I remember correctly.
Okay, are communities in different countries differ? Like, do they need a different approach from the managers?
Oh, definitely. Like, that's why we have obviously for Korea, China, Japan, very, very different from Western markets. And at least for Japan, where I know, it's quite different. Like, I think in English markets, like places like Reddit or Facebook is big. But in Japan, I mean, people can't even speak English mostly. So obviously, if you're not going to go on Reddit, Facebook isn't too big. In Japan, for example, Twitter is big, so that's where I spend most of my time.
Is it only the language barrier, or like people behavior is also different?
Behavior is different. So one thing I really struggled when I was building up the community for Supercell in Japan was that in the US, or the English, I guess, in the English side, you always have a streamer that is streaming your game or writing a blog about your game. It's not too hard to find someone. But in Japan, it's very difficult to find because people don't want to be doing YouTube, because you want to be same as everyone, anonymous type of culture. So you don't want to like put yourself out there. You don't want to be in front of a camera. So even if you do find influencers, if you invite them to an event that's being live streamed, they'll decline because they don't want to be on camera. So
it sounds like a good career to go to Japan and become a streamer there.
I think so, but it's also quite a hard market. Japanese is not, used in many places. So compared to the English language, your audience is quite smaller.
Okay.
So it could be quite risky to be a YouTuber there.
All right. Speaking about the differences again, is sometimes the community and influencers, not even influencers, the players that play your games, they can be really harsh.
Yes.
If you make the changes, they're not satisfied. If you don't make the changes, they are not satisfied. And in terms of the negative impact, I would say, like, how different are the Japanese market, for example, and the European ones? Like, who's more negative? Who's more positive?
To be really honest, I would say Japan is probably more negative because
Really?
Twitter is biggest and Twitter is anonymous. So I used to get like 2-3 death threats every day, basically.
2-3?
Death threats. People tell me I should go jump off a building and things like that. But I think it happens. But Uh,
I didn't expect this. All right. So what do you do when you get death threats?
no, I just ignore it. For the most part, I ignore it.
But what would be the best way to communicate with the unsatisfied players?
Right. So there's two types of I think people who are unsatisfied. So people who give you death threats, or people who say your game sucks, or it's the people who say your game sucks, but they give you a good example why it sucks and how you could make it better. And those are the type of the people I try to respond to, because those type of players actually do help make your game better. It's actually sad when people are unhappy, but they don't say anything, because then you can't really improve your game if you don't know about it.
So is that true? The community can actually impact the ongoing project and game. So you actually listen to the players when you make changes. Is that true?
Yes. So one reason I should say I joined Supercell, and one thing I really love about Supercell is that we do listen to a lot of players, and I think from a company standpoint we could have done better showing that to the players. But when we have team meetings on a weekly basis, I think some of the other companies I worked for, the first question was how much money did we make last week. But I think at Supercell, the first thing we say is what's the community thinking? What's the community talking about? Are they happy, unhappy? That's how we start our
That's
meeting.
cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, it's like the same, when we speak about the metrics, we say that retention and user engagement is the most important metrics of all, because if you have people playing your game and coming back, that's when you can start thinking about, well, not start, but at least can hope to get some money, right? I mean, you cannot ask for money if they don't like the game.
Right, retention is probably more important than the revenue you're making. Personally, in my opinion.
Well, for Supercell, yeah.
Well, I know. I mean, not just Supercell, but other people make a mistake because monetization is something that you could kind of fix or improve, while retention is something that's probably almost impossible to.
Of course.
So if your retention is bad, that's a very bad sign, even if you were making money.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you would in this situation, but have players ever complained about monetization, if we speak about it? Do they complain, there are people who don't like free-to-play games, for example. Do they complain that you make them pay?
Well, I think there's always people who complain about, but it's more about not the fact that there's monetization, it's more about helping free-to-play players improve. So I think that's something we need to keep a good balance of.
Mm-hmm. What was the biggest challenge in your entire career that you faced as a community manager?
So the biggest challenge I've ever faced was, this wasn't at Supercell, another gaming company, but we were releasing a game. Before we launched it, we knew it was going to be #1 due to the number of pre-registration that we had. And we launched the game. In 45 seconds, the server goes down. We have a maintenance. We put it online again. The game goes down in 2 minutes. And that kept on happening 5 or 6 times, where we realized that we had to have a long maintenance. And the game ended up being down for 30 days. 30 days, can you believe it? We got, I think, over 5,000 emails, I think, per day or per hour. I can't remember, but it was a crazy number. But
how many death threats?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit.
So what did you do that?
So one very important learning, I think, if anyone's a community manager, is that you need to tell players what's happening. So even if you have no news, you have to tell them that we're working on it, or we have no news, but we're investigating something. Or if the game is going to be at least be down for a week, tell the players that the game is going to be down for 1 week. Don't just ignore the player for 1 week, which is I think a lot of people just want to shut it out because it's so negative, but it's important to be forthcoming and yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I had a startup. It was like a fintech startup with games, and well, of course, we released an update on Friday evening because there is no other time for an update, and of course, it's just we got thousands of players coming. And of course, something went wrong,
Yes.
and lots of them couldn't get what they were promised. And it was like one of the most horrible weekends I ever had because I was the co-founder and we didn't have a community manager. I was the community manager, like, oh my God, I got so many messages and I tried to answer and help each and one of them.
Right.
And it's amazing how you can see when even angry people appreciate this. It's it's better when you're ignored, right?
One important learning from Supercell that everyone should heed by: don't do an update on Friday. Don't do update on Friday.
Really, yeah. Everybody knows that, and for some reason, you plan an update for I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right.
You're never on time. It's
Yes, I understand.
never meet a deadline, and it always keeps happening. I would say.
Yes, I understand.
So, did you actually answer all those thousands of emails each day?
That email was answered by an outsourcing partner, but for like the forums, I was spending a lot of time replying to players and posting updates and things like that.
Did you feel depressed?
Yes, I felt at first it was very depressing, not because of the negativity, but because we knew we had a #1 game we knew it was going to be #1, and now this game is like down.
Dead.
Yeah, dead. So that was really
Harsh, sad. All right. Is there any community management platforms that help you do that, like answering and stuff?
So at least this is my personal opinion, but I like using like tool like Sprout Social because it helps me just easy to manage the calendar. When the outsourcing company I use also goes through there, so I could always check their calendar if I needed to. I could also access it from my mobile, so I could always check it if something's going wrong, or even on weekends I could check. So it helps.
On social networks, do you use your personal account or it's some special working one?
No, we use the official account. But I think for Reddit, I think we're going to start making personal accounts. But that's about it.
Okay. Have you ever, I don't know, did you come some crazy stalkers in your careers?
No, I haven't had any scary stalkers before. But I think when we had an event in Japan, I think the players were a little bit scared to talk to us, but they were like regular people. We were really humble too. So please feel free to talk and ask questions. Really.
Okay. So going back a few steps, I mentioned my crazy weekend. Do you work on weekends? Do you actually check it?
Yes. So I do check social media on weekends. I do check it when I'm on vacation.
Do they make you?
No, they don't make me. But Supercell is totally flat, and it's totally you could do whatever you want, basically. So no, they don't force me. But it feels so uneasy to not know what's happening. It feels so like, for example, if I don't check it one weekend and on Saturday someone make this really cool post, and you could have retweeted it, but because I didn't check it, it's already too late on Monday. That sucks. So in that type of feeling, I hate. So I do check it on weekends. Little bit, just a little, just not too much.
Okay, we can take 1 or 2 questions from the audience, if you have. No, okay.
Oh.
Okay. As soon as I say no, people say no, we want.
Thank you. I just wanted to dig deeper into the no answer you gave on using personal accounts versus professional accounts. I guess you discussed it in the team. What's the biggest reason to not use your personal account for professional communication?
I think one reason we try to use the official account as much as possible is because it becomes very fragmented. I think if it's just community managers, maybe it's okay with a personal account. I think companies like Riot, or Blizzard, I can't remember which one, but I think they use personal accounts to reply to players. And that's fine. I think there's pro and con about it. It's just that for us, we decided not to use personal account, except for Reddit. But I think it really depends on the company, and once you decide to go that route, then I think you should just keep going on that route.
I think it's, yeah, as you said, pros and cons, but especially when dealing with negative players, it's, you know, psychologically, it's much easier to use a company account than your own.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
You feel like you're getting personally attacked.
Yeah.
if you use your own account.
There is a, I don't know, it's probably common knowledge that people who work at support, not community management, but support, that they don't even give you their real names.
Ah, correct.
When
yeah.
they answer the phone, they give you some fake names because when you start shouting in them because something doesn't work, you know, they don't take it personal. All right, 2 more questions.
Hi, hello. So I have a twofold question, sort of. First, how do you transfer the feedback to the developers or the designers, given that Supercell is a giant of corporation? Because like in an indie studio, you can just shout and the other person will hear you out. And the other thing is, what happens when your personal feeling regarding, let's say, an update on a specific game feature is actually the same with the community, but it's actually the different. It's actually different with the designers or something.
Yeah, no, totally.
What's the discrepancy?
Yeah, I totally understand. So to answer your first question, so another reason I really like Supercell is because we operate in small cells. So each game dev team is very small, maybe 10 to 15 people, depending upon the team. So we sit in one area and we could just, swivel our chair around and just
shout.
Yeah, shout. So yeah, that's how I give feedback. And when we have that weekly meeting, as I said before, the first thing we talked about is what's the community feeling. So that's when I could give the feedback about community wants this, wants that, hates that, and stuff like that. Sorry, what was your second question again? Okay.
So when there's when you have a different opinion.
Oh, different opinion, sure. So I think I think it boils down to trust with the team. So I don't have any dev skills, but I do understand how hard it is to make a game. And sometimes what the community wants for various reasons is just not going to happen. And that's a fact of life. So I think for myself, how I do it is I kind of pick my battles. So if I shout at the dev team to make, why aren't they putting this in every single time, then they're less likely to make something happen. So if I rank this is super important to the community, then I'll try to push that a lot harder than maybe some of the other asks from the community. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Steven had a question there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this may have already been something that you mentioned before, but I'm curious, as a community manager, what is the biggest challenge that you have to deal with? To put it another way, if you could change one thing about how you're handling community at Supercell, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a hard question. Okay, so this is probably for community managers that worked in localized language. So we could never get away with the time difference. So it's always, the communication, we always try to improve it, but it's always a little bit slow. So sometimes certain changes to the update is made by the dev team, posted in English, but Japan, Korea, and China didn't know about it or didn't even hear about it. And lately it's getting better, but when I first started at Supercell, it was actually quite bad, to be honest. So that's something we've always been trying hard to improve. And actually, one way I improved that is, so on Wednesday when we have the team meetings, I actually take notes now, and then I send it to a mailing list. So that's one way we've improved that problem.
That's cool. All right, one more last question.
Hi. I want to ask more of a numbers question. Sure. In 2012, when Clash of Clans was developing and hitting very, very big, you had a completely different community approach. It was less process-based, in my opinion. And right now you have everything rolled up, understandable. In terms of numbers, stickiness factor, how loyal is your audience, how much you've improved, in your opinion, back if to compare back to 2012?
Improve the game or the
No, not the
how
game.
you
The loyalty of players, how the audience is engaged, all these factors. Like how are they like sticking together, not leaving the game? How it is harder to them to leave the game? Because you've been doing some great work, and I can see the progress. But I would like to know, like at least personal perception of the numbers.
It's in the numbers. So, at least for community, I think it also depends upon the game itself. So if the players love the game, they'll stay. If they don't love the game, then they'll quit the game and they'll quit the community. I think we made some changes lately in some of our games where we actually had a Supercell forum, but we closed the forum down and went to Reddit. And I think you have to be open to change in this industry because things just change so rapidly. One thing we did improve compared to 2012 is that many of our community managers are more out in the open. It's more like many people know our faces now. I think we've done a lot of dev videos that we never did like in 2012. So I think those are the improvements, and that's what's keeping some of the players still playing Clash of Clans till this day.
Okay, but you can't tell, like, we think that now we're like performing 40% better than we did in 2012, something like that.
I don't know, as a community manager, I do care about like reach and things like that, but I'm not too engrossed in the numbers because if I was to be judged by numbers, there's just tons of ways I could just...
Let's try to answer it this way. It's like, is there less angry players than it was many years ago?
Is that a question? That's hard to say because players are always looking for improvement. So I can't say that people are less angry now, but I think people are more appreciative that we're out there and we're answering questions more often and doing the dev videos this time.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jempe. Thank you for coming to the Athens Game Show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
All right. And we're going to continue in just 2 minutes with the next great speaker from Amazon. Just getting ready. A clicker? Do you have a clicker? What? Yeah, just a second.
Clickers would be good.
Yeah.
I like clickers.
Yeah.
Advancing slides is helpful in a presentation.
Yeah, and your presentation is always so smooth and stuff. Yeah, of course.
Well, let's not jinx it, but thank you.
Yeah. No, I think you're a great speaker.
Well,
You were specially requested to join the Athens Games Festival again.
now you're making me get big. All right.
Yeah, all right. You ready?
All right.
Okay, we've discussed it today, and well, you all know that if it's a good project, it means that people are coming back and the retention rate is high. So that's what we can say about the Athens Games Festival, because we have another speaker that came back from the last year, and as I just said to him, like he was specially requested after his last year presentation. I'm giving you Mike Hines from Amazon.
Thank you. It's late in the afternoon, and I know that you are all exhausted from hours of playing some really good games here in Athens, right? We're all tired from playing games. All right, well, I appreciate your showing up to talk about how players respond to competitive events in casual games, even casual mobile games. So who am I? Mike Hines from Amazon, and I have, I'm not kidding, the best job in the company. They fly me around the world to talk to rooms full of game developers. I get to hear from you guys what is and isn't working. You guys tell me what's easy, what's hard. I take that information back to Seattle, and the guys in the big tall buildings who are much smarter than I am work on those problems. Every once in a while they think, hey, we've got something that's gold here. They give it to me, and I get to come out and tell you guys about what we figured out. And today, I get to tell you how we figured out how we can increase user engagement and user retention with competitive events, even for casual and non-core games. So let's start with kind of setting the stage and taking a look at kind of the competitive gaming scene, kind of and how it ties in with esports. So actually, I hope you guys are awake, because this is the audience participation part of today's presentation. We're going to ask the question, how many millions? All right, how many millions of man-hours did it take to build the Great Pyramid of Giza? All right, this is a freebie. 33 million man-hours to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. Okay, that's a lot of hours. Until I ask, how many hours did we spend watching the most popular video on YouTube? Any guesses? That's a good guess. Actually, we're talking 140 million man-hours. And actually, that's not even true. It was true when I made the slide, but since then, there's been a music video from South America that has gotten 210 million hours of viewing. I mean, how many pyramids could we have built instead of watching that one video on YouTube, right? Okay, not that we need a lot of pyramids or anything, but... and we're not even talking sports yet. But when we start to talk about sports, it gets even more exciting. So let's talk about not even a worldwide sport. Let's talk about a sport just in the US, college basketball. Not even a pro sport. College basketball playoffs. We call it March Madness, and it's a tournament where all the college teams see who's the best. How many millions of hours did we spend watching American college basketball? 640 million hours. And that's not even like World Cup soccer territory. That's just basketball for college in the US. Okay, so sports and watching competitive events, so much better than building pyramids and watching YouTube videos. But this is actually a real-life sporting event. How many millions of hours did we spend watching other people play video games? Okay, guesses. Good. All right, I heard 1 billion. That's not a bad start, but I need you guys to go higher, particularly 4.8 billion hours. We, mankind, have spent 4.8 billion hours watching other people play video games. That's huge. And that's what competition brings people in as players and as spectators. So who are these 4.8 billion people? Well, when esports first got started, they were the people who were playing the games. They were the hardcore fans. But we've seen some really good progression in the mix of people who are big fans of esports. Last year in 2017, was the first year where casual esports viewers actually outnumbered hardcore esports fans. And this trend is continuing. 20% growth year over year, and with the part that is casual gaming fans growing faster than the part that is the hardcore gaming fans. This is amazingly good news for the industry. Now, I'm sure you're all happy for the industry, but I'm sure you're wondering, what about my game, right? What about my game? The news is even better for your games. And I'm going to stole the slide from Twitch. Don't tell them, but it's got some really good data here that I want to pull out. Because we stole the chart from Twitch, this big line here up on top, those are Twitch views. But something even more important is happening here. You'll see on the bottom on the left-hand side, week 26, we sort of normalized all the numbers to around, this is about 100% of what the games do on average for Twitch views, downloads, and revenue. They have a tournament week, competitive gaming. And yes, the Twitch views go off the chart. But just as important as Twitch views, maybe even more important, downloads get significantly higher. Revenue per active user gets significantly higher. And it keeps going into a week, even 2 weeks after the competitive event ends. And guess what? This isn't for a core game. This is actually a mobile title that's showing these kinds of numbers. So competition is good for your casual mobile game. And I want to show you 2 examples of exactly how that's been implemented so you can see how people with games like yours have actually gone ahead and made this happen. So in your casual mobile game, or if you're in your casual, Steam game, you probably have one of these 2 different types of competition. Direct competition, where your action as a player directly impacts your opponent's ability to do what they're trying to do, where when your opponent's moves directly impact what you do. Fencing is a good example, boxing is a good example, Hearthstone is a good example. What's harder to see, though, is indirect competition, and where that is. Indirect competition is where what you do doesn't at all affect my ability to perform well on the game or on the level. Archery is like this, bowling, downhill skiing. I mean, the Olympic Games are full of indirect competition. Discus throwing, javelin, sprints, running events, track and field events are almost all indirect competition. And don't tell me that the Olympics doesn't have any appeal as a sporting event. Seriously, you've been doing it here for thousands of years. Indirect competition is a thing. And it's a thing in your game. Let me show you. Everyone gets kind of direct competition, right? My robot shoots at your robot shoots at mine, my robot blows up, you win. Okay, we got that. How about indirect competition? I'm going to talk to you about an endless runner, like we see over here on the right-hand side, and how indirect competition works in an endless runner. And I'm also going to talk about a casual mobile game where you've got dancing ostriches. Dancing ostriches. I'm not kidding. No, I'm serious. There is a seriously good indirect competitive opportunity for a game where you've got 3 ostriches and then you're in the top hat. You're an important ostrich. They're going to do some dance moves, and you need to do a dance move along with them in time to the music if you're going to get any points. And the way that they turned this into an indirect competition was really cool. There was a developers conference in Moscow a while back called DevGam, and what the developer of this game is in New York City, by the way. He thought, why not set up a tournament for dancing penguins just for the people who attended this conference? And the winner, the people in the first 3 places, will give away something. We'll give away some hardware for first place, a bunch of in-app currency for second and third place. So using Amazon's technology, Game On, they built a tournament just for the people at that conference. And it was well promoted, and people downloaded the game, and they played the game to see, if they could actually make the leaderboard. And since they knew it was bound just to the people in that conference, just for the days of the conference, they knew that they stood a really good chance of winning some of those prizes. And what ended up happening was 70 people ended up downloading and playing the game. And those 70 people made 700 attempts to get to the top of the leaderboard. Now, Amazon Game On, we don't give it away for free. We actually ended up, we end up charging. They ended up paying a little less than 3 cents per actively engaged user. So think back to your last user acquisition campaign. How much did it cost you to get 70 users? Well, never mind that. How much did it cost you to get 70 engaged users who played the game multiple times? I'm guessing it cost you a lot more than less than 3 cents. So from a user acquisition standpoint, this was amazing for them. And they have done this over and over again. They have tournaments that go ahead and get in new players and invest new players in the game. And for all the people who are existing players, they have daily tournaments which reward people with in-app currency, so zero cost to the developer in terms of money out of pocket, but very real results in increased user engagement and increased user retention as people come back every day to try and make it to the top of the leaderboard. All right, that's one example. Let's take a look at Ghost Pop. Ghost Pop is kind of an endless runner type game. And okay, guys, if you haven't done this yet, okay, I hate it when people pull out their phones during one of my presentations, but I want you to do that now, and I want you to look up on your favorite store, Ghost Pop. Download this game. It is seriously fun. And no, they didn't pay me to say that. It's, you're this little Halloween trick-or-treater, right? And you're running down this forebodingly dark path. And all of these ghosts show up from out of nowhere to try and get you. And you've got a flashlight. And you've got to shine your flashlight on the ghosts, which makes them pop, Ghost Pop, and you see how far you can get, or you see how many points you can get, or you see how many ghosts you can pop. Actually, you know what? There are 3 different things you could be really good at. You could be really good at getting a long ways. You could be good at getting a lot of points, because if you shine your flashlight on fireflies and on treasure chests, you get more points. You can be really good at just eliminating hordes of ghosts. So what would happen if they created a competition that was built for you? Yeah, they have a competition so that if you're really good at getting a long way, here's a competition where you're likely to do really well. Or if you're really good at maximizing points, there's a competition for you. If you're really good at popping a bazillion ghosts, then the horde competition is the one for you, the one right up there at the top. And if they give you a competition that you know speaks to your strength in that game, oh heck yeah, I'm joining that one. I kill at getting hordes of ghosts popped. So I'm going to join that competition. And these nice people have a competition every day in these different categories. When I built the slide, I took a look at the numbers of players who were in it. And in, let's see, I had it in my speaker's notes, but I think like the boss battle had 6,000 people who had already played when there were still 5 hours left in the day. Horde Challenge, I think, had 3,000 people who were playing when there were still 5 hours left in the day. So you've got 8,000 plus players who are engaged in your game because you gave them a way to play doing what they do best. Awesome. That you can't get that through non-competitive experiences. And if they win, congratulations, they get in-app currency. Now, you can also create tiers of competitions. So the person who wins today gets to play the person who wins tomorrow. And you can tier that up until you've got like a champion of the month. And if you have a champion of the month, well, at least with Amazon Game On, you can reward them with any prize sold and delivered by Amazon, which is pretty cool if you happen to be the best Ghost Pop player of the month. So the options there are actually really worth playing for and really worth submitting a bunch of scores to get good at. So that was a really neat, fun way that I hope you guys look at your game Take a look at how your game offers different levels of challenges for people with different skill sets and give them a way to shine and feel great about what they're good at in your game. It's had amazing results. For example, Eden Games has a game called Gear Club, and Gear Club actually boosted their retention, their 30-day retention, 20% just by offering real-world prizes in one of their competitions. Think about how much code you would have to change to increase your user retention 20%. How long would that take? How much money, how much investment would that take? Do you even have an idea that would improve your retention by 20%? Well, I'll tell you what. Here, take this one. It's called adding a competitive event and making the prize something that people want to compete over. So these are all really good tools that we have causal relationships. It's not just a casual relationship. And this is actually, if you have these competitions, you do end up with more user engagement. I've shown you a lot of stuff based on the product that we work with at Amazon called Amazon Game On. There's a slide, there are links later on. But we're so confident in how this works at Amazon that we don't even charge people for the service until the developers get the engagement that they're looking for. If you don't get people who are engaged, if you don't get people submitting scores for their competition, you don't get charged. That's how confident we are that this is a strong causal relationship between having the competitions and actually getting the player engagement. So yes, you can do this without using Amazon Game On. We're trying to make it a little bit easier for you, but do have some sort of a competitive event. Find a way to let people be competitive. It builds community, it builds engagement, it builds retention. I really appreciate your coming out here today and listening to what we've learned. I think I've got just about 3 or 4 minutes for questions, if anyone has a question or two.
Thank you, Mike. Let's thank Mike all together. Do you have more examples of increasing retention? Have you heard about more examples of increasing retention with real-world prizes? Because this looks very interesting.
Game Insight has done that, and they've increased retention. We have other partners who don't have that number split out yet, so we can't really quote them. But if you do go to developer.amazon.com Game On, trust me, we have a link full of developer testimonials that I would love for you to go and read. I won't repeat them here.
All right.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for a wonderful presentation. I have a question about like real-world prizes and Amazon. How you do it? Basically, you just place it, store it somewhere on the Amazon, and when you have somebody who's won the first prize, it is being delivered to his address if he already did that, or how?
So
how do you know the address of the player?
That's a good question. How do the real-world prize mechanics work? There are 3 kinds of competitions that you can set up with Game On. You can let your users set up competitions with each other, but no prizes can be awarded when the user sets up competitions. A streamer can set up competitions for all of their viewers to participate in. By the way, streamers love it when they have a reason to make their followers happier and to get more subscribers in. So if you've got some Twitch streamers that you want to play your game more, let them have competitions playing your game. But again, they can't spend your money on prizes. Only the competitions that you, the developer, set. You can go into Amazon's catalog and pick anything that we sell and deliver, take the catalog number and put it in, and say what the conditions are for winning that. If and only if those conditions are met, what we do is we show the player, we actually send you some JSON code. You can display that to the player. They click on it, If they have an Amazon account, we know where to send it. If they don't, they tell us their address. We know where to send it. We go ahead and we handle returns. We handle all of that stuff. It's just that easy.
Can you just give, for example, $100 for a player, and then he must pick something from the Amazon store himself?
You can give them an Amazon gift card, yes.
Okay, thanks.
It actually makes sense with the distribution shop of Amazon, that the resources that Amazon has, right? It sounds crazy when you think that you as a developer have to deliver something to some physical address. Yes, but when Amazon,
let us do that.
Exactly. That's what I thought, and I was like, oh my God, how does it work? But I mean, with Amazon, yes, it all comes together. You guys know how to do it, right? Okay, one more question.
Hi, Mike. Great talk. Some of the examples that you pointed out in your slides were mostly for more casual games, short sessions. Can you speak a little bit more about, let's say, other genres or other game types? And let's say there's developers here. I see a lot of, RPGs and this kind of thing. How should they be thinking about implementations for other genres, or are there examples that you can think of?
Oh, sure.
Of competitions?
That's a good one. What besides casual games works really well with this kind of a competitive experience? We've got developers now who are working on team versus team-based experiences. So me and the three of us, right? We're one team, and we can compete against 3-player teams from anybody else in the conference today. And if we rise to the top, then we can get we'll each get one of the prizes, or we'll each split the virtual currency, and that works well for mid-core to core games. So also Gear Club actually is kind of a mid-core racing game. And what you had been doing is just kind of racing shadows or racing ghosts, which is fun and cool, but way more fun and way more cool when you actually get stuff for beating the ghost. So it's starting to work really well in more traditional direct competition games when you can set up the brackets. So let's see. I don't have permission to talk about them yet. There's a game where it's a first-person shooter game, and they have made a level for the purposes of a tournament, a large nationwide tournament. And as people start winning their own regional levels, you're going to end up with a national champion who's going to get a pretty nice piece of hardware out of this whole deal. And Amazon is just taking care of that bracket and the arrangement, so it works out fairly well, even for FPS core games.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. That was amazing.
Thanks, guys.
And we are done with lectures for today, but I can see the judges for the Nordic Game competition. And it's going to happen here in this hall in a few minutes. So if you're interested to see the best games, stay here.
This is a chase for you because then you can watch thank you. You can watch the trailers on this instead of you don't have to watch that screen. I'll sit next to you. Oh, old man. And you will get these. This is when you. So this is when, after each round, when you decide who's your favorite, the winner of that. Okay, hello everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome to a qualifying round of the Nordic Game Discovery Contest. It's actually our 7th on this tour, which is the NGDC Tour Season 3. We're really, really happy to be back here in Athens. We We were here for the first time last year, and we have so many fond memories. Hello, Happy Land. Yeah, but this year it's gonna be even more fun because we have these gentlemen here. Sort of. Is that making it more fun? Yeah. And we have a whole new way of doing this live contest pitch battle in. And just to explain the rules, I will do that in a moment, but just to explain what the contest is about, check this out. And this would be sound. Can there be lights? There you go.
But also exhilarating. The freedom to create, working with like-minded people. The long days, sleepless nights, the leaps of faith, the pride in what you do. There are ups, the moment you first playtest it, the reaction of the first who tries it out. There are also many downs. But when you fail, you learn that your game needs to be discovered, for more people to know it exists. So you enter the discovery contest, and a new journey begins. Battling on stage, pitching your game, first at home, then abroad, with and against other gifted developers from all over the world, making new business connections, even friendships, learning how to pitch, sell, connect, and evolve. Getting your game out there, that's what it's all about. Nordic Game Discovery Contest.
Yeah, so that sets the mood. The tension mounts, right? Yeah. So now I am about to explain the rules to you. It needs a little bit of explanation. So the NDDC board has selected 3 contestants for this qualifying round. They will come up here on stage in a minute, and they will battle it out in 4 different rounds, where our judges here will participate as well. So first round is meet the contestants and show us their game. Second round is questions from the judges about the game, about the gameplay. Third round is about the reality surrounding the game, meaning price point, business plan, whatever you have in mind, dear judges. And then, as a last round, it's called the final round. Very proud of that title. It's about swaying the judges. The contestants, they have one last chance to try to do something that will make the judges love them even more than the other contestants. And that could be anything. It could be a dance, or juggling with fire, or maybe even showing a snippet of a game. Who knows? We'll see. All right. So we're almost ready to introduce you to the judges. But first, we gotta meet the assistant, because I couldn't have done this on my own. I need a person that can do the math while also sit down and look really enthusiastic. And for that job, please meet Teddy Florea. Teddy is the key person here, because there's a strict time limit to the answers from the contestants. They only have 30 seconds to answer the questions, and if they exceed that, then guess what's happening? Can you show us what's happening? Yeah. All right. So now it's time to meet our dear judges. So where should we start? Mikael, you want to start? Who are you?
Hey guys, my name is Michael Lieber. I'm CEO and founder of Booster Space, and I represent Kickstarter here in Europe as Outreach Games.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen Lee. I head up business development for Attica Games. We take over live operations for your existing titles.
Hello, I'm Mike Hines, and I'm not in charge of anything at Amazon.
Hey, woo-hoo!
My name is Junpei. I'm a community manager at Supercell.
Woo! But just keep it. Thank you. Okay, so now We are ready to start. Round number one. We're gonna meet the contestants. We're gonna check out how they are doing back where they are from. And first up is from Israel, contestant number one, Gamut, with a game called Purgatory Guardian. Please come up here on stage, man. Now, take a seat, any seat. And then, with one word, describe your studio.
Small and big.
That's a new word. That's good. Small and big. Okay, next contestant. No, sorry. That's not true. Because now we're going to see behind the scenes at Gamut. What is going on there? The video you sent is a little bit long. You only have 30 seconds, so I'm going to cut it off by the help of you, Teddy. Are you ready? Teddy, go. Oh, that was a good place to cut it, right? Yeah, stop, says Teddy. Okay, give it a hand for behind the scenes at Gamut. All right, next up is contestant number two. It's Lorsa from Greece with a game called Katusha. Please enter the stage. And can you describe your studio with one word, please?
Old school.
Old school. So now it's small and big versus old school. Pretty exciting. And it looks like you are about to say something there, or really, really tired. Let's check it out.
Beginning. I was looking for a Katyusha game on Google. I didn't find anything, so I thought, why not?
Originally, she was a brunette, sort of a femme fatale. Manos said, hey, I think most Russians are blonde, so made her blonde, and it actually turned out pretty cool, I think.
The best part of the process was the research that I made, so I could make all these historic World War II weapons.
Really interested in the vision that Manos had for what this game could be.
We want players to finish each level in multiple ways, while fighting with challenging AI and taking advantage of the crafting system.
We are going to create the best platform RPG experience ever made.
Whoa. That's cool. And then we just missed one contestant, contestant number three. It's Pixel Rain from Greece with a game called Robbie Swifthand and the Orb of Mysteries. Oh, I can feel that you have some home audience there. So that should make you extra special nervous, huh? Yeah. So describe your studio in one word, please.
If I'm speaking for my teammates as well, I'd say passionate.
Passionate. So it's passion versus small and big versus old school. That's kind of a dangerous trio there. I'm excited. Are you excited? Yeah. Oh, I thought so. Okay, let's take a look.
Εδώ γίνονται τα σημαντικά πράγματα του Robbie Swifthand, τα υπόλοιπα δεν χρειάζεται να τα γνωρίζετε. Έχουμε και λέμε. Εδώ είναι τα πίκτα μου, τα ηχεία μου, οι οθόνες μου και το project μου. Υπάρχει ακόμη ένα στουδιάκι, στο οποίο γίνεται η προεργασία της μουσικής και του sound design, αλλά τώρα πού να τρέχουμε μουσική. Λοιπόν, σας περιμένουμε όλο στο Athens Games Festival για να παίξουμε Robbie Swifthand and the Orb of Mysteries. Γεια σας!
Give him a hand. So now we've seen a little bit about the studios from the contestants, and now it's about their games. So first up is contestant number one, Gamut. I'm going to show the trailer that you have sent us, and after that you have 30 seconds to tell us what we just saw, okay? All right, here we go.
And are you ready? 30 seconds from now.
Hello. We are creating a semi-open world action shooter RPG. The game is in the purgatory. You basically have the option to go over the world in the purgatory and save the souls of human beings for being dragged into hell. So we're a three-team studio, and most of what you saw is basically me. And the music composition is one guy and one programmer. And we've been creating this game for the last year and a half. The demo is only 1 year, and that's it, I think.
Yeah, thank you. So now it's on to contestant number 2. We're gonna see the trailer of the game called Katusha. Now. All right, and 30 seconds from now.
So we saw a trailer, our gameplay trailer, which is from the early alpha version demo, which is on Steam. It has our unique stealth system, first level of the game. 7 months of development is what you saw. It has the eagle, shooting mechanics, user interface, the final version, and we're going to add in the next updates interaction with NPCs, trading, crafting, loot, which is going to be random, and also random generated levels.
Wow, that's it. Thank you. And now on to contestant number 3. Let's check it out, Robbie Swifthand. Whoa. So what happened there? You have 30 seconds from now.
Robbie Swifthand and the Orb of Mysteries is a hardcore 2D platformer designed to obviously inflict irreversible psychological damage. We created it in the time span of 1.5 years. And we're just a small team of 3. And we've already been in Gamescom. We've been featured by Unite Berlin. And we hope to get it from Steam that it currently is to Xbox One, PS4, and okay.
Thank you so much. Woo. So that went fast. Now we're actually at the end of round 1, and this is where our dear judges step into play. Because now you have to decide who did best in this first round, showing us their studio and showing us their game. You have a sign for each game here in your hand. When I say 3, 2, 1, you show it. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, show us your game. And ooh, I cannot see anything. But I don't have to. You should just show it to Teddy. That's the most important. Oh, it's actually a tie. We're starting out with a tie. This is so exciting. And let's move on to next round. So this is round 2. This is where you get questions from the judges, and that's why I will have you, contestant number 1, to stand up and go into the limelight so that you feel the pitching tension, okay? Right. So who do you want to start, dear judges? All right. Please hit it.
Cool. Was there a reason why you chose the FPS RPG genre?
Yes. First of all, to do a first-person RPG shooter game is not something very realistic today. But I made a lot of games in mobile in the past, small mobile games like runners and platformers, and I wanted to create something that's beyond the edge of a small group. We're only 3 people, and everyone who sees these games don't believe we're only 3 persons. All the graphics, everything you see, the story, it's all of us, and it makes a feeling that it's beyond belief. So we all play games that we liked, and three of us love.
Stop. That's nice. Next question, Mike.
The art is beautiful, and I get that it's an amazing accomplishment from a small team. Customers don't care about that, really. What they care about is what's different between this and every other first-person shooter coming out from studios.
What's the question?
What's different between this and every other first-person shooter coming out?
Well, as a gamer, I played a lot of FPS like Destiny, Borderlands, and Doom. And the truth is, there is something lacking in this work that is something in between. So what we did is created a game that is surrealism, but with a lot of realistic aspects and with a lot of story-driven quest. And it's a niche that it's out to achieve. But people who come to the booth today say to us, wow, it's exactly what I'm looking for, because it's something that is lacking. When you play Destiny, you have a great storyline, gameplay. It's missing of those games out there.
Time's
So
up,
nothing important.
time's up. And we'll move on to next question, Steven.
All right, since Mike took my question, I'll ask another one. It looks like a really beautiful game, interesting story. Can you talk to me about, are there any other game modes, for example, multiplayer, other than just playing through the campaign? Thanks.
Yes, we currently have shown the single-player mode storyline, but we're currently developing a co-op version of a game, not multiplayer co-op version, because we're gonna do an experience that's similar to Borderlands, so you can play with a friend and go in different area and side quests, and so you can enjoy not alone with the story.
Okay, thank you. And then last question from Michael.
We didn't hear about this on stage, but in your pitch we got, you were saying there's a lot of historical accuracy in the storylines. So how do you achieve that? Is there like a true historic background, and do you have historians developing this for you?
I developed the story, but what's special about the game is that all the facts and the story behind each character is the gray area of the story. I took from Wikipedia a lot of stories that are out there that we're not seeing in actual games. Today, games try to make us feel that it's special and unique, but when you read online what's happening out there, it's even more far away. So I took these stories that are completely crazy and made the player, go into the info codex with a link to Wikipedia, so you can actually check my facts of each one of the stories out there that are pretty
Time's
crazy.
up. Thank you so much.
The game is called Purgatory Guardian. I mean, historical accuracy, check the Bible, Purgatory Guardian.
Okay, thank you, Mike. On to the next contestant, and please come and stand up and get ready for a round of questions, starting with maybe Michael this time. No? Then pass the mic. Mike.
You
All right,
do that
all right,
twice.
sorry.
Actually.
Here we go.
So why do you believe that retro games are better than games with modern style gameplay?
I cannot say that I truly believe this. Those are different kind of gameplay. All retro games and new games give you different experiences. But we chose retro games because we are old school gamers. Like we like to put also RPG elements in our games. We believe more like with gameplay. We have a pixel art game, and we want to give users the experience via our gameplay and make it immersive. And, like old school games, we use our imagination in those games, and players use their imagination as well when they get into the game. And that is not translated with
Time's up. Thank you. Next question.
Okay. Roughly how much content in terms of hours of gameplay is in the game, and is there any incentive for people to replay the game?
Well, actually, we are going to have randomly generated levels. There are going to be 4 hours of gameplay, 12 levels, and they're going to have random loot, and they're going to choose some different path in some way of the scenario. So yeah, they have many reasons.
Thank you. And next question.
So much of the enjoyment of the game is understanding what the song means and the emotion and the tension behind the song. Is she actually going to meet up with her boyfriend ever again? Yes or no? If I don't know the story, why would I care about your game?
Well, actually, Katyusha is a poem of 3 paragraphs, so whoever reads those paragraphs can understand what the game is about. It's going to have 3 multiple endings. I'm not going to spoil them for you, but you're going to be really excited when you see one of those endings, and you're going to feel this experience in World War II, where people, for example, die, they're starving, the war, the tension. It's going to have the letters, real-life World War II letters, so it's got a lot of stuff there.
Thank you. And last question.
My question was taken. Let's see.
Take your time. You don't have 30 seconds.
Um, okay, do you plan to release the game in any other platform than PC in the future?
Yes, in PC, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, Android, and iOS. That's why we made it on Unity, so that's going to be a light version of the game. According to analysts, like nearly 50% of the gaming industry comes from mobile revenue, so we respect both PC consoles and mobiles. So yeah, we're going to go for all platforms, definitely.
All right, thank you. That was contestant number 2. Give him a hand. And now let's move on to contestant number 3. Stand in the limelight, sir, and get ready to be toasted. Who want to ask the first question? All right, please go.
So I think you mentioned cross-platform community level editor. So can you tell me more about that? Are you going more toward user-generated content?
Yes, we are trying to make the game in a way that if it reaches critical mass in user base, it's very likely that we're going to release a level editor that players are going to be able to create their levels, for example, on a platform such as PC or the Switch. And the players from other platforms will be able to enjoy these levels regardless of what their console of preference.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
To get through any of the levels in Robbie, you've got to memorize everything and be sharp on with your timing. I didn't see any game mechanic in Robbie that would help retain people who started to get frustrated or would just hit repeat failure levels. How are you going to keep people like that in your game?
Well, thing is, we fixed that some while ago. We made 3 difficulty modes instead of 2. I am sure, like, I know you from some time, and I've seen that you played my game like a while ago. But now we have the not so hard mode, which is even for a casual player, is a challenging experience without having too much tension or too much demand from the point of the game. So now you don't have to be a pro player to actually pass one level. And
Time's up. Sorry. Next question, please.
Who's the target audience for your game, and be as specific as possible?
Gamers that want a hardcore experience.
That was good. And last question from Michael, sorry.
Actually, Mike took my question slightly, but now you contradicted yourself in the statement. If your main target audience is hardcore gamers, what's in it, or how do you get the non-hardcore gamers to actually even start playing this game and giving them a nice experience?
Thing is, the wording was specifically gamers that want a hardcore experience. I might get a casual gamer that wants something challenging to feel like he has achieved something after a level, but I'm not going to push him too far. If you're a casual player, you can play the not so hard mode. If you're a hardcore gamer, you can play the hard mode, and if you're a really, let's say, mentally insane person, you can go to the insanity mode and torture yourself for hours.
Okay, thank you so much. That concludes this second round. Yeah. So dear judges, now it's time for you to decide who decides to win or deserves to win this second round about the game and the gameplay. So are you ready to show us your game? 3, 2, 1, show us your game. Yes. Thank you. Whoa, that is really, really exciting, I think. I don't know the scoring. The scoring system is based on an algorithm originally discovered in the ancient Greece, actually, before Greece even was here. It's true. And it's so exciting that we need a little breather now, because otherwise I will sweat to death. So let's chill out and take a look at the dear sponsors that are supporting the Nordic Game Discovery Contest. First up is Exola. They have chose to show you a trailer that is best enjoyed in completely silence. And now we can talk again. That was a good trailer, right? On the other side of the scale is another of our dear esteemed sponsors, namely Dolby, who has something to say like this. Yeah, a big hand to Dolby as well. Oh, we love them. So we are so very proud of our sponsors, and they are happy with us because we travel around the globe almost, at least Europe, to do the qualifying rounds of the Nordic Game Discovery Contest. This is, as I think I mentioned it, the 7th qualifying round we're doing in this season. And to celebrate that and for you to understand the scope of this majestic competition, I have spent most of my time as a grown-up creating this video. Yeah, that's where we are now, and then. And then it all concludes with the grand finals taking place at Nordic Game 2019 on the 22nd to 24th of May. Are you going to be there? I think you are. Oh, I made that heartbeat there. Oh, I'm so proud of that. But just to mention a little bit more about the prizes, because there are so many prizes to win if you are a contestant here and you go all the way. But also just for the winners of each of the qualifying rounds, they'll get press coverage from Plan of Attack and Mail.ru. And then should you win here and go to the grand finals at Nordic, it's not only about pitching and battling on stage there in the semifinals and the big final. It's also, you also get a booth there where you can show your game and actually pitch it in front of all these industry experts that are joining us. You're also part of a mentor session the day before the conference. And besides this, there will be tons of great stuff coming in the next month, especially maybe from, I don't know, from Amazon, or I don't know. But we'll see about that, right? Okay, so if you want to follow us and follow the finalists, please visit one of our websites here and support your local finalists. All right, that was it. Now let's move on to the third round, because now the tension mounts for real. This time we are going to have questions from the judges, but it's about the reality surrounding the games now, and that's why contestant number 1 should stand up and get ready again. Are you ready, judges, to fire away your first question? Michael, you do it, right?
I have the mic. So, what is more important to you and your team? Be critically acclaimed or have growing revenue?
The first one.
Critically acclaimed.
Yeah, it's important to us to create something that we're really proud of. We're not looking for funds. Everything you saw has been done on our free time because we really put our art into it. I'm a designer. Everything you saw is my free time. Same for the compositor and the programmer. We never look for fundings yet. No money, nothing. So this is just showing us that we try to create something that we're very proud of, which succeed outside and not looking for money. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
So a lot of the FPS games that you've played as a gamer are really being built and supported by huge teams, huge studios with lots of resources. How do you plan to compete with that? Let's say, for example, right now you're 3 people, you launch a game, it's maybe not picking up enough players right away, so the revenue is not coming yet. How do you expect to be able to keep up and compete with large studios in the market?
Well, we're not trying to compete really with a larger studio. We're more like trying to go naturally in the flow that's supposed to be done with every game. For example, we try to polish the demo as much as possible and still keep a quality that is needed to the hardcore gamer today for the good strong platform like Xbox or PlayStation, and etc. Afterwards, we're going to build the community around hopefully a big store online and really take the reviews in art like we did today from every person who play our games and fix these things to make it the best possible outcome.
And time is up. Thank you. And next question.
You've got amazing vision and some amazingly good ideas. But seriously, how many months and how many dollars do you need until you ship?
Well, you know, in the end of the day, I look at the company, for example, the very famous company from Poland who did Witcher, and they just proven to everyone that they can do the best game out there in a third or a tenth of what the biggest have done. And not saying that I'm competing with any one of them, but I know that if we can do something like that people out there say it's crazy to do, like you just said, like everyone today, then it's possible, because even a small team don't have to limit itself to a small game. If he has the willingness, he can create something very big, and don't be afraid out there to compete with big guys.
So you have no idea how many months or how much money you need?
Well, right now, I believe that my aim is 2-3 years. Top.
Time
Okay.
is up. And last question, please.
So you said that I guess revenue is secondary in nature. Are you looking for people to join your team, and how are you going to convince those people to join your team if financial is not in the highest priority for your company?
We have people that are currently joining our team because they have a vision that is similar to us. We try to make the best game out there. We're showing that you can pay people to do your work, but when people put your soul in the game, you know, I can't say exactly who's working for us right now, but they understand what vision is, and they can really do something for money instead of working for us because they believe it's the same vision that we have. So it's hard to describe, but obviously we buy what needed, we pay for what is needed for creation and to get the best game out there.
And time is up. Thank you so much. That was contestant number 1. And now it's contestant number 2. Please stand up and get ready for questions. Who wants to start? Judges? Yes.
I'll start.
Hit it.
Let's see. Okay. I think you were looking for a lead dev and animator. Why would someone would like to join your company?
First of all, we found our lead developer. Animator is something optional. Cutscenes are not, our priority at this point. So anyone who shares the same vision with Katyusha and wants to give to the gamers an innovative experience with immersion and likes World War II scenarios and pixel art graphics can join our team.
Thank you. Next question.
You've taken a look at the median revenue generated by pixel art platform games. Assuming you do about that well, is that enough to support your studio?
That's not enough. The only game that is so popular it's going to make large revenue is definitely Bloods and Ritual of the Night. We also saw that Death's Gambit and Chasm did not go well at sales, but here we're going to give players a real World War II platform RPG experience. A lot of immersion, a lot of unique gameplay elements like the stealth system, like the usage of the pet in battle and solving puzzles, randomly generated levels and multiple endings, so it's not going to be just a pixel art game.
Thank you. Next question.
Looking at your current studio composition and run rate, how are you planning to price the game? How many units would you have to ship in order to be profitable?
Good question. I'm going to price it like at 9.99. You said what, if we're happy, how many units? Sorry.
How many would you have to ship?
If we're happy, like with even 50,000 sales, we would be happy, but our goal is 500,000 sales because Russian gamers are like 45 million gamers. So yeah, we have a lot of audience there.
Great, thank you. And last question.
I actually changed my mind on what to ask you. This character looks pretty nice, and the eagle as well. Will you go out with merch as well and have cosplaying at events in the future?
That's another excellent question. Yes, we already announced that we're going to make Katyusha figures, which will support our funding. We're going to merchandise it, both Katyusha and the Eagle, with either t-shirts or merchandise stuff, and also with collector's edition in the final version. But we have a long way to go. We're in early alpha still.
All right, thank you. That was the conclusion. And then, last contestant, please step into the light of terror. Okay, want to start, Michael?
Yeah, I'll go back to my original question also for you. What's more important, critically acclaimed or growing revenue?
a healthy balance, I'd say. You can't have one without the other, because if you have good revenues on one game and that harms your next games and your reputation, what's good with it? But on the other hand, you need to have a sustainable business.
Next question.
Great, you just perfectly led into my next question. So what is your plans, well, after you launch this game, what are your plans for your next game, and how are you planning to build Robbie into a sustainable IP?
It's going to be a long one. So first of all, we have already launched it. It's on Steam. We want to finish it for all platforms. We're going to collaborate with third parties. We already have a contract with East to West to cover the Chinese territory. That's why we are also looking for other publishers to take other continents and other platforms in order to give it to the right hands to become a commercially successful product. For future projects, we're going to either get funding
Time is up. Next question, Mike.
Kind of a follow-up question from yours, Steve. Does the revenue that you're generating from your Steam release pay for the conversion to consoles?
Can you please rephrase that? I do not understand the question.
The revenue that you're earning from the released game on Steam, is it enough to pay for the migration to the console versions?
Yes, it is.
Short answer. Okay, last question.
Nowadays, I think you cannot ignore the revenue that comes up from mobile games. And I was curious why you decided to port it to consoles instead of putting it out to mobile, for example.
Because we've seen from user feedback that they really want it to be going on the Switch first, then they want to see it on PlayStation and Xbox One. We are also working with a publisher that really suggests that we first make it for the Switch and PlayStation, because he has some connections there, and it's better for us and them as well. And then it's going to be easier after the Switch port to make it for iOS and Android. We're making it in Unity, so there's not much harm there.
And time's up. Thank you so much. Now, that concludes round 3, but I think that we need a little exercise, actually, because I don't know if you noticed, but there's a difference in between these chairs. One of them has a secret hatch where you will fall down. No, not really. It's more like this chair is called the leader's chair. And before we do the points for round 3, let's see, how was it after the 2 first rounds, Teddy? So Robbie is in charge. Can you please come and sit in the leader's chair then? And a hand. But it's not necessarily so that you will be sitting there now, because now we need the points after round 3. So are you ready, judges?
This was hard.
It's meant. Oh, it looked hard. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Show us the game. Oh. Now, Mr. Algorithm, does that change anything? Katusha's in charge now. Ooh, please come and sit in the leader's chair. And now, I mean, I cannot even say how excited I am, because now it's the final round. And now it's time for the contestants. One final chance of swaying the crowd, swaying the judges, even swaying me. I love to be swayed. So please, contestant number 1, you have a 30-second to show us something, and you can talk while you show it, or you can not talk, but you should stand up anyway. All right? So are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Okay, Katusha is...
No, stop. Contestant number 1.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that was almost, but not quite. We're still there. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. I didn't have something very specific to say about this step right now, but I have to say that I really enjoyed to work with my team the last 2 years. Everything we created really make us proud of every steps, every design, every level. We're really proud of ourselves, and I believe that people will understand that and feel that This is why people will come and download our game. In 4 months, it's going to be free on Steam, and I hope that you can follow us and believe in us because.
And time is up. Thank you. That was Sway. So, did you like that, audience? If you really liked it, it's like ah. If you sort of like it, it's like ah. If you don't like it, it's. That sounded pretty good. Now it's contestant number 2. Katusha, please stand up and get ready to go.
So, Katusha is a 2D platform RPG that is built under 4 pillars: immersion, innovation, entertainment, and emotion. In immersion, a World War II story based in real-life letters and personalities. Innovation, unique stealth kill system based in player skill, usage of pets in battle leveling system in both randomly generated levels and multiple endings. Entertainment, intense battles with advanced AI, RPG elements, quest raids and crafting. And emotion, living in World War II, missing your beloved boyfriend, reading real-life letters, living emotional moments like starving and deaths. And all this in a 2D.
Oh! What do you think about that, audience? Okay, contestant number 3, come up on stage and show us what you've got. Are you ready? All right, go.
Yeah, for us, I would like to focus on another state. I'd say that within a year, we actually created a product that is on the market already. We already have some deals with major publishers, and we have pending contracts that we're reviewing currently. We've gone to Gamescom. We got featured by Unity in Unite Berlin. We also did a talk there. They used our assets to demonstrate how to make really good games, and our game has 95% positive on Steam.
Thank you. So how did he do? So now, judges, it's time to give the scoring for the fourth round, and that is taking all rounds into account and then decide on who did best, including show us your game, behind the scenes, gameplay answers, business plan answers, and the last swaying. Ooh, it's exciting. But I need to see some games now. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, all right. 3, 2, 1, show us your game. Okay, but it's not over because now Mr. Teddy Florea, the living algorithm, will do the points while I will play this magnificent music. It's a new word I've done here, and it's here. So, Mr. Algorithm, let me see how you do. I will come. Yes. And then you have to subtract and add. And yes, no, but no, nah. Yeah, okay. Or, yeah. And we have a winner. It's been decided that the winner of the 7th qualification round of the Nordic Game Discovery Contest is Robbie Swifton! Woo! Great job, man.
Thank you. Can I get my team on
Yes,
stage?
yes. Get the team on stage. Let's celebrate and look at this beautiful sign because this is where you're going.
Vicky's not here?
Yeah, Vicky is at our booth.
Okay, that's too bad, but here they are. And they are all going to Sweden for the finals. Congratulations. And that concludes this round of the qualification round of the Nordic Game Discovery Contest. I want to thank you, judges. Great job on sharp questions, and timing was good. And thank you to all the contestants. You did really good. And you, the audience, I love you. Thank you. See you in Sweden. Thanks, man.